taking out the trash on Christmas Eve and in a very poor mood when he saw the creature on their fence. Saw her, rather. It was a girl. She looked like one, at least. She wore overalls and a baggy Nirvana t-shirt. She was eating raw eggs. Perched 7 feet in the air on their picket fence and eating raw eggs. He watched from the porch as she put another between her teeth, feeling its shape with her tongue, playing with it in the manner of a mildly bored sadist. Then her jaws clapped shut, and he heard a little shell crunch. Some yolk tried to escape out the corner of her mouth, but she dabbed it up from her cheek with a napkin and threw the paper on the ground onto Ron and Susan's side of the fence. There was a whole pile of litter down there, bits of shell and stained paper collecting in the quiet snow. Excuse me?" Ron asked, trying not to sound too creepy or hostile. He was shivering terribly all of a sudden. It was awfully cold. Did the neighbors have a little girl? Susan would have remembered. "Could you not litter on our lawn? What are you doing?" he asked. Her head swiveled to look at him in the manner of an owl. This was too strange, Ron thought. Perchance a dream? Maybe he'd wake up in bed with Susan and it would be Christmas Day. That would be merciful. No, he still had to dress up as Santa. Susan would be back from caroling with the kids at 9, so he was supposed to finish delivering presents around then and get spotted through the window before escaping out the back door. Ron loved his family, but he did despise Christmas. It was too loud, too corporate, too fake, too bright, and had too many obnoxious obligations. He set down the trash bags and tried to focus on the girl again. It was weird looking at her. His eyes and thoughts kept trying to slip away. Ron had the oddest impression of snow hairs scattering from an Arctic fox. Maybe he ought to try meditation again. He couldn't even focus long enough to hold conversation with a little girl. She had large, dim eyes which did not reflect the moon. She said, "I'm having a starlight snack. Don't worry, Mr. Ron. I'll clean it all up." She was the neighbor's kid, then. How else could she know his name? He let out a breath of relief which froze in the air. "Do your parents know you're out here? You shouldn't eat so late. You won't be able to sleep." Ron wasn't sure if he'd be able to sleep after this. "They don't know I'm here." Of course. They had gone caroling with his wife. Were probably busy annoying the whole neighborhood right now. "Well, then you should go home." Ron had walked down from the porch, crunching through snow and stopping at a safe distance with hands on hips. "If you don't, Santa will fill your stocking with coal." "Santa isn't real. I'll go home after I'm done." "How do you know Santa isn't real?" Ron asked. "Because I ate him." What a weird kid. Ron decided he'd need a chat with her parents later. Fine. One more egg, then. He looked away. The sky was dark. Where had all the stars gone? He could only see one, which might have been Saturn, and the moon. It must have been light pollution from the bloody Christmas lights. The girl shook her head and insisted. 3 more. She ate the large red egg she'd been holding, dabbed up the yolk which escaped, and dropped the napkin into her little pile. That was all the eggs she seemed to have. Looks like it was one more after all. Time to go home, Ron said, feeling an odd relief. But the girl pinched her fingers up at the sky and moved her hand in a snapping motion. And an egg appeared in her hand. It was a good magic trick for a kid. The egg was large and yellow with a dusty ring around it and a red whorl on its face. It was very round, more like an orb than an egg. It seemed to glow also, reflecting the moonlight. She ate that one too. The last egg she didn't pluck from the sky, but rather out of her pocket. It was yellow and definitely glowing, and looked not much like an egg. Wait, don't eat that, Ron said. His legs were quibbling back and forth. What was happening? He was terrified, could barely stand. It was like some dark secret had erupted within the ancient recesses of his mind, the part which told a tree monkey to hide from loud thunder. He stuttered. That was a pretty good magic trick. Can I show you one as well? He held up his hand for the thing which was not, could not be just an egg. She examined him. But you said Christmas was too loud, too bright, Mr. Ron. I'm just clearing it all up. Okay, but it's a really good magic trick. Don't you want to see? In the dark, her expression might have slipped into an engraving of cold, ancient malice, a hatred for all things that was wrinkly and geriatric with age and filled with a wise cruelty. But no, she was smiling. Don't drop it. The snow might put it out. The girl dropped it. Ron jerked forward and caught the gleaming yellow orb as if pulled to it by a giant and invisible rubber band. It burned his palms. It was made of fire, of solar lava. It was so hot, he almost did drop it. And now Ron could smell a scent he'd never known before, but knew at once to be the smell of his own burning flesh. This had better be a good trick, the girl said. Ron forced a little smile, raised the miniature sun next to his head as he practiced in grade school with coins, and pushed it towards his ear. By jerking his head the other way, he was able to drop it behind his back and catch it with his other hand, quickly masking the light with his fingers. Another new smell. His own hair burning. A dirty, acrid scent. He should have been screaming in agony, but terror had carved in him an empty space of awful clarity and self-control. See? All the eggs are gone. Time for bed. Ron's voice was cheery. He'd grown up in the country, and the city sky had always seemed drab, but now it seemed extinct. Saturn was gone. He tried to remember if he'd seen the sun set that day, or if it had simply become night. Days were so short in the winter. He could hear his wife's caroling group down the street, moving from house to house towards them. It must have been almost 9. The girl beamed down at him. Can I show you a magic trick as well, mister? Look at your moon. Did you know your moon is really the size of a quarter and that you can grab it out of the sky? Look, if you hold out your fingers and pinch it, it almost looks like you could pluck your moon from the sky. And if you hold up your thumb, you can blot it out. She demonstrated. Nothing happened. Now you try it. Oh, really? He laughed. I didn't know. Last trick, then bedtime, okay? Last trick. I want to join the carolers. She started to sing quietly. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is calm. Trembling, Ron mimed pinching the moon with 2 fingers. They were charred and splattered with blistering. He didn't want to think what was happening to his other hand, still holding the burning orb tight behind his back. The moon really did look small, like he was holding a coin up in the air. Round yon virgin, mother and child. She continued to sing, and Ron blotted out the moon with his thumb. There was a snapping noise. The sky was so dark, it was like a light switch had been turned off. When he removed his thumb, the moon was gone. The moon was no longer in the sky, and the girl had another orb-like egg between her fingers. It was small as a quarter and gray and pockmarked with dim craters. She sang so quietly he could barely hear her. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly pieces. The girl placed the moon carefully between her teeth, and her jaws clapped shut like thunder.